I finally have my hands on the Fujifilm X30. Now, believe it or not, I downgraded from the X100S for this. I think the Fujifilm X series gear lust has really taken hold. Let's check it out. I thought it's worth mentioning the owner's manual. This is simply the basic operations manual. There's more online. Is actually very well laid out. Now, if you're familiar with the Fuji X cameras or pretty much any digital camera now, most of it is straightforward and simple. But if you're not, this will get you through nice and easy. I even like little things like that, where it just gives you a visual. So you're looking out for the click when you put the memory card in. That's nice. And it's very simple, very clean, very easy to get through. There wasn't too much that I learned from it compared to the other X series cameras I have. But there are new features compared to the X100S, for example. And thinking about it, even over the X-T1, there's certain features that are new. So you've also got a manual on this disc, which is very good if you don't want to go digging for it online. And the warranty there. Personally, I always just use online. Typically comes with a strap. Mine's already attached because actually I bought this second hand. This nifty little Fuji USB plug might be relatively slow compared to usual USB stuff. Now this bit comes off so you can attach the other adapters for the other countries, which in fact there's two in there. Tell a lie, there's only one. It's a bit awkward, but anyway, I'm sure I can fit my duck adapter that I use with the Apple products when I go to US or Colombia, for example, and a USB cable. Now, you would have noticed here, the plug has a USB port. It doesn't come with the charger anymore. The charger is actually built in to the camera. You plug the USB in and it charges. It does say it could take about 4.5 hours though. Now that's not a big deal for me because I use a USB charger, so I don't need to have the camera plugged in. But it also means that via this slot here, you can be charging as you're shooting, or just plug it in at the end of the day as you normally do. So let's take a look at the actual camera itself. So I opted for the black version after having the silver and black before because I feel it's more discreet. Let's take a look at the bottom first. The usual tripod screw thread. Now the battery and memory card lives in here. This system is slightly different, but you just pull and it pops open. Your memory card lives in there, SD card, and your battery in there. I find the battery is a bit awkward to get out. You have to drop it a bit. Yeah, so at least you know it's not going to drop out if you accidentally don't close that properly. To close it, make sure you push it down and just click that in and you're away. On that side, you have nothing. On the back, you've got flash, so the flash pops up. Push the flash down like that. When you want the flash up, press that and it pops up. That's what the flash looks like on that side. So you can pop that back down. Now this is a little wheel here in case you wear glasses. You can adjust, I think they call it the diopter. Here's a sensor so that when you go from looking at the screen, you lift up your camera to your eye. It will change to that if you've got it set to that via this button here, the view mode. You've got a drive, this wheel here, the usual functions here. This is a change on the X-T1. A lot of people complained that these buttons weren't lifted enough for them. I didn't have a problem, but they definitely won't have a problem with this. Display button, function button. Now what I do love about this camera, which is something I love about the X-T1, is the articulated screen. So that's the range of motion you've got. And you can also do it that way. Yeah. You got to do it fairly relaxed. Don't yank it around because you don't want to mess up that cable there. But it's a nice feel. It's pretty much like the X-T1 in that aspect. But that means you can be more discreet shooting, or you can get down, shoot from low down without having to bend down, which is good if your knees are getting older. Let's take a quick look at the top. We said the flash was there, hot shoe there. You've got manual, aperture, shutter, program. SR plus is their advanced modes, where it automatically recognizes the scene and adjusts to compensate. Another auto one. Filter uses all the filters that are available, the toy filters for example. SP1 and SP2, other automatic modes. I don't really pay much attention to these, to be honest. If you want to know more, just Google and you'll see. It could be interesting. And this one, panorama. You've got shutter release there, which actually has a screw in if you're still using a cable. You've got a movie record button. This shoots 1080p up to 60 frames per second and everything going downwards too, which is very, very nice. Your exposure compensator goes to +3, -3, which is also very useful, similar to the X-T1. On the side, we looked briefly before. You've got a USB, I think mini HDMI, and a 2.5 external mic jack, which is very useful, much better than the X100S had. Would be nice if it was the 3.5, I wouldn't have to use an adapter, but we're going to be testing that out. It even says HDMI on there, just in case you're not sure. Another function button there, and a nice fat cap that's not coming off without a good tug. It's nice and secure, and it has a soft finish inside. So that's what the lens looks like from the outside. As you can see, it's the Fujinon Super EBC 7.1 to 28.4mm. So it's, if I've got this right, and somebody told me off last time for getting it wrong, well, I can cheat. 28 to 112mm. Now, if you've never used it before, what you've got to do is like that. That'll bring it on. Then you just turn to zoom and you're away. Nice and simple. This control ring, currently as I have it set, allows me to skip through some functions. Be careful with that if you're not too sure. I've got it in aperture priority at the moment, so I can just roll this back, and as you see down there, that will change. If I change to shutter priority, you get a little picture that explains what you're turning it. Let me just show you that again. Panorama, 360 degrees, landscape mode, portrait mode, multiple exposures, and you can add others. The filters go in there. Auto, which you should really stay out of. Advanced SR, auto. Program, not for professional. Shutter priority. Aperture priority, which we're going to leave it in at the moment. And of course, that's your dial there. I have a spare battery from my X100S, which I'm always going to have with me. Although this is rated for about 450 shots, it's good to have a spare battery. And as it is basically USB, you've not got a problem with that. I forgot to mention on the front, you can switch between focusing modes, manual, continuous. And that's nice and solid as well. That's not getting knocked by accident. That's a nice little design feature. It's ergonomic. Now, it's not entirely compact, but it feels good. But that's basically the camera itself. Let me know if you want to see it compared to any other cameras. I'll talk about this versus my X100S once I get into this. Now, I'm not expecting the same image quality, but I am expecting to be more flexible. Now I've got the zoom, and actually the zoom goes from f2 to 2.8 as you go further through the zoom. Now that is a big deal. That is very nice. For travel, this could be the one.